Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to this webinar this afternoon. I wanted to let everyone know that we're going to do the format a little bit differently. We're going to start off with the UDL versus differentiation content, and then towards the end, we will move into the Q2 recap for the CTE TEACH grant. I'm doing it this way because I have invited people who are not part of the grant to attend the webinar, so I want to give them the opportunity to see the UDL versus differentiation content without having to stay for the update on the CTE TEACH grant. So I want to make sure that everybody can hear me. If there's any problems with that, please put it in the chat box. And I see Carla's in the waiting room. So if you are part of the CTE TEACH grant, please put your name in the box, in the chat box, and include anyone else who is attending the webinar with you. That way we can have an accurate attendance, because I will send out a makeup assignment for those who do not attend. The content from this webinar will be available. I will send it to Frank at CTE Online later today to see if he can post it on the CTE TEACH page. However, it may take until tomorrow to get posted, and the recording of the video will probably be ready in a couple days. As you can see, Chris isn't here with us today, and he's the one that presented tech tools for teaching last time. So it's just myself, Deidre Fuentes, and this is Christine Stevens. She's going to help me with all the technology today. So the first part will be about 25 minutes to a half an hour, and then the last 20 minutes or so will be a recap of the second quarter for CTE TEACH. So I want to go ahead and get started. So today we're presenting on UDL versus differentiation, and we're going to look at what is universal design. There is an engineer named Matti Makkonen from Finland, and he invented a technology in 1992 that was to make communication easier for deaf people. Okay, so if you know what that technology is, can you type that answer into the chat box? I need this part. Yeah. Oh, how do I hear? Sorry, I can't see the whole screen. Okay, that's good. So does anybody have a guess on what the technology was? Somebody put Braille. So this was technology that allowed deaf people to communicate easier. Any other guesses? No? Okay, so it was texting. With that said, this technology that was meant to help deaf people access the ability to communicate more easily actually is something that all of us use. He used the universal design to come up with a technology that would be useful for everyone. So on this video, we tried to play it earlier, and for some reason, when I play it on my side, you can't hear it on your end. I'm just going to let you know that it's a really good video, and it talks about universal design for learning and how it makes learning for everyone easier. And it's what was the thing I said about it earlier? Oh, how teachers are already using universal design and differentiation in their classrooms. They just might not know what it is, or that they are doing it. Okay, so I would suggest once this is loaded to CTE Online, take a look at it, or you can even Google it on YouTube if you'd like. So universal design for learning and differentiation. Universal design is an overarching approach to focused inclusive design of the whole learning environment at the outset. Basically what it is that the teacher takes all of the different abilities, any of the barriers, or any of the variables to students' ability to access the content before they develop the lesson. So they know what they want the students to learn, but they look at each student and their individuality to determine what they can what strategies they can use in that lesson plan to accommodate or to allow for their access of the content. And that's done beforehand. It's not done after the content has already been taught. It's proactive. Differentiation is a strategy that's aimed at addressing each student's individual levels of readiness, interest, and learning profiles. So the teacher modifies content and processes to address the needs of each student. The teacher directs students to specific activities to further learning. So this one happens more after the lesson plan has been taught. So Chris is the one that came up with this presentation, and he was trying to come up with an analogy for the difference between universal design for learning and differentiated instruction. And what he came up with is universal design for learning is like a buffet. You have everything that anyone could need or want already there at the beginning of instruction. So as you can see on the slide there, it says they plan the lesson in anticipation of the students' needs. You really look at the students and assess their needs before you build that lesson plan. And then they build the tools and methods for differentiation into the lesson plan. It occurs prior to instruction, okay? And then his example for develop the student or differentiated instruction is a specialty meal. You give the presentation, you do the lesson plan, and then you come back and you identify areas that need to be changed for specific students. And that usually occurs post-instruction. And at the bottom, you can see that the things that happen during instruction that overlaps is that they meet individual needs. They give access, both strategies give access to high quality content. Highly supported, engaging learning environments, provides multiple ways to develop and express knowledge and skills, emphasizes critical thinking, strategic learning, and assess student progress during learning and adjust as needed. It often occurs during independent practice. So if you keep that in mind when you're making your lesson plan, would be, oh, if I make a buffet, that means there's something for everyone. Like everybody can find a way to learn the content. Whereas if you're differentiating instruction, it's like sitting down and ordering specifically what you need or what you want, and maybe you want your steak rare. So that is something that you should take into consideration. So Chris came up with this graphic on, and I thought it was really cute. We were talking about it the other day. And this is his example of differentiation. If you look at the picture, you can see that everybody is at the same level, and that's indicated by the dotted line that goes across. But if you look below them, each of them are on a different size pedestal. So basically it's saying everyone needs a different amount of engagement or different strategies to learn. And that's what you do with differentiation, is you change the lesson or the strategies used to accommodate those differences and those variables. He found this quote from Carol Ann Tomlinson, an American author, and it says, differentiation is simply a teacher attending to the learning needs of a particular student or small group of students, rather than teaching a class as though all individuals in it were basically alike. And I'm going to refer back to the video we didn't get to watch, because their analogy is, the video's analogy is if you go to the store and you want to get a new outfit, but every single outfit is the same, it's all the same color, it's all the same size, it's all the same style, that's not realistic, because we don't all fit in the same style, we don't all fit in the same size, and our likes and our dislikes are not the same. So that's why variety is, I was going to say the spice of life. I don't know. I don't know where that came from. But so I'm going to go back a slide for a second. And something that I think is differentiation is the beginning, is what happens before you get to UDL. So if we're looking at teachers in their first or second year, I can see where they would be applying differentiation without even knowing it. Because as they teach a lesson, they're going to reflect on that lesson and take a look at the different students and how the different students perform. And then they will make adjustments after the fact as needed. However, as that teacher gains more experience in the classroom, they will realize that if they had just planned for some of those things beforehand and embedded it into their lesson plan, then they would already have some of those extra steps out of the way. It would make it easier for everyone to access it instead of having to wait until after they see what the assessment was, whether or not they needed to adjust it. So I always think of differentiation like the starting point for universal design for learning. excuse me. Does anybody have any questions? I just keep talking, I'm sorry. Does anybody have any questions on anything I've presented so far? If anybody came in late, please make sure that if you're with the CTE Teach grant, that you enter your name and the names of anyone else attending with you or watching this webinar with you into the chat box so that we can have an accurate attendance. I saw some people coming in a little bit later, so I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. So this blended learning is an instructional strategy in which students learn via electronic and online media as well as traditional face-to-face teaching. This strategy increases a teacher's ability to differentiate instruction because they can deliver their lesson in person, have the activities, but then they can expand upon that by using different resources online or electronically. Station rotation is another model of learning, blended learning. You might wonder, like, why are these all blended learning? Well, blended learning allows you to differentiate. So that's why I'm introducing you to the different types of blended learning. So the first one was just face-to-face and electronic, but the station rotation allows for students to rotate through different stations on a fixed schedule, where at least one of the stations is an online learning station. This model provides opportunity for teachers to not only differentiate, but to apply UDL in the planning stages. So as they plan those stations, they can consider each of the students' strengths and weaknesses to determine how they will be able to access the curriculum in each of those. Lastly, there is one more this is one that I really like, and I think somebody I know is in here, Carla, and I think she was the one to introduce this to us, but it's interactive learning menus or choice boards. The one that's on the slide is a menu, and it gives the students different choices on how they are going to create or demonstrate what they've learned. This one in particular, they're all links, so like Google Slides, Google Drawing, Screencastify, Dress Up and Present. So there's ways to do it electronically, or there's also ways to do it non-digitally. I think this gives students more buy-in and more interest in the content that they're learning because they can choose how they want to learn the content. These learning menus and choice boards can be created in a variety of styles. And you can see there at the bottom of the screen, it says like tic-tac-toe, bingo, or date, number by date, which I kind of like the tic-tac-toe because they get to pick anything from the thing as long as they make a straight line or a diagonal. And bingo would be similar to that. And then the number by date is where a teacher might make a grid and say you have to complete, I think the one that I saw was like 3 by Friday. So maybe if you have a unit that's going to be a week in length, you could do 3 by Friday, and then that would be 3 different activities or assignments that they can do to demonstrate what they had learned from that lesson. Does anybody have any questions on that? I'm talking really fast. If anybody has any questions, I would like to pose one question, and if you can share your answers in the chat box, is if you think about your school districts and your schools and your students, what are some of the learning variables that your students face? An example might be dyslexia. What other issues or problems might they face that could impact their ability to access your curriculum? So just put some of your answers in the box there. Chat box, excuse me. I can't see. English language learners, absences, like not being in class, ADD, a student's reading level. Other ones might be like socioeconomical, maybe they're homeless. What's it say? Oh, having a class with multiple ages. So if you have 9th through 12th in one class, that can become very difficult. Lower level grade, reading level or math level, like the common academic, and foster youth and homeless. And the sad thing is that that's not the entire list. And if we think about how we expect teachers not only not even seasoned teachers, but these brand new teachers to be able to teach to all of these different levels and to students with all the different barriers and variables to their ability to access the content. You can kind of see why it's important to build curriculum or lessons that allow for different expression of how to demonstrate what they've learned in class. If anybody has any questions on that, you can type them in the box and I can answer them. I would just want to make an announcement. If you're not part of the CTE TEACH grant, we're kind of done with the UDL and differentiation section or content. And you'll see on the slide, CTE TEACH is on Twitter, YouTube, and we have podcasts on SoundCloud. If you would like to follow us, please do so. That's where we promote a lot of our upcoming webinars, our in-person trainings, and our podcasts. We've done several. We have another one coming out pretty soon, and it's one where we talk about the myth busting in CTE, like what are some myths about CTE. So if you haven't followed us, please do so. This is our contact information. So if you're not part of the CTE TEACH grant and you don't want to hear the update on Q2, you can disconnect from the webinar, or you're more than welcome to stay if you'd like to hear what we've been doing, what all these great people have been doing across the state. If you are part of the CTE TEACH grant, please stay, because I have some really good information that I think will be beneficial to everyone. Anybody have any questions? Okay, so CTE TEACH Q2 recap. This is my thing, so show me the money. This is the stuff. Okay, so Chris, who does the creative stuff, came up with the first part of the PowerPoint, but he wasn't here to present it, so I had to do that for him. But when it comes down to nuts and bolts, I'm kind of like the data person who likes to see what's going on and put it in a perspective so other people can have a good idea too. So the show me the money slide, it shows the number of hours that the grant started with at the beginning of this academic year. We started with 4,800 hours. We have logged 2,038 hours. So that means we have a remaining of 2,761 hours to be used in the third and fourth quarter. Now, I come from retail way back when, and it was always use or lose. If you have money to use, you better use it, because the next year they will lessen the amount they give you if you didn't need to use it. So I want to make it as easy as possible for everyone to be able to expend their hours. And also I will be looking at the totals everyone has turned in, because I know I have one district in particular that has already used all their hours at the end of Q2. And I have some that have done a really nice job of dividing it up so that they're on track to use all of their hours by the end of the year. If you'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner, those hours, they equate to, we started with 240,000. We will be paying out a total of 101, almost 102,000. So we still have $138,000 remaining in the grant that we need to spend out by the end of fourth quarter. So like I said, I will be reviewing your Q2 activity logs and quarterly invoices to determine if we have extra hours that can be dispersed among the grant recipients. And basically I would focus those on the participants that have met their goal or are on target to meet their goal or to spend out by the end of the grant. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, because somebody did ask earlier, they weren't aware that they could get more hours later. I will be reaching out to the grant recipients that are selected to receive more hours, because we will require a new MOU. It's actually an addendum to it that would up the number of hours. So it just changes, instead of 320, because that's what everybody starts with, it would change it to whatever the new total is. I know that I have probably 320 hours to play with. So I will be looking at the different districts to see how much they spent and allocate those accordingly. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for all of the hard work that they've done, and I want to share with you some of the accomplishments or some of the activities that have been going on in the background with the CTE TEACH grant. So first off, we completed the fall statewide training in in the desert, and we had 29 participants, so that was a really nice turnout. However, I didn't get to go. I was a little sick. But we have another one coming up in the spring that will be in Sacramento in March. If you haven't attended one, you will need to attend the spring one. I have sent out registration and everything for that. In October, we hosted one webinar on tech tools for teachers. That was a really big success. Everybody seemed to really like that and had questions about the different tech tools that Chris shared with us. Another item would be that we have another district join us during second quarter, and we want to welcome Summit Leadership Academy from the High Desert. They got a little late start, but they are hitting the road running and off to a great start. I know that you're going through the modules with some of your mentees, and I wanted to let you know that I have updated modules 1 through 14. I went through and I clicked every single link. I looked at the content. If it was outdated, I believe SELT was still referenced in there. I changed that to the new program. I think it's something English language acquisition. I can't remember the acronym for it, but I updated that. So anything that was outdated, I removed. If links didn't work, I removed them or replaced them. And I also looked at the content and aligned it to the most current CSTPs and the TPEs, so that if anybody's referencing what your new teachers have been trained on, there are reference charts on each module to see what each module covers. I will also be looking at the mentor modules. I just haven't started that yet, to see if there's anything that we need to add or change to those as well. We also created a new resource folder for digital media on CTE Online. And if you're ever looking for recorded workshops or recorded podcasts, or the recording of the webinars, you can find those under digital media. If you want the actual PowerPoints or Google Slides where you can save it and edit it and use it to for some of your workshops with your new mentees, your new teachers, that would be in the presentations folder. So just remember, digital media is things that are recorded. You can't edit them. If you want to edit something to make it your own, you're going to save it from the presentation file. That way you can share the information with your mentees as well. We updated all the CTE TEACH documents with Google Docs. Those are downloadable. You can save a copy for yourself and use them as needed. We increased our Twitter following from 150 to 189. If you aren't following us, please do so. We have that's where we post all of our upcoming trainings. We put it out multiple times because we try to get as many people to attend, even if they aren't part of the CTE TEACH grant, because these resources are free and we don't charge for them. So everybody's can attend. And we also increased our YouTube subscribers from 13 to 22. I know that doesn't sound like a lot. However, we had 283 views of our 4 podcasts and 366 views of the 9 trainings that we have recorded. So as you can see, even though we only have 22 followers, we have had quite a substantial number of views. Does anybody have any questions on those or anything? We're good? Okay, so this is where I'm going to give you guys a high five, because these are the CTE TEACH mentoring accomplishments. As you'll notice, the first one on there says 103 teacher observations. That is outstanding. That is a ton of observations. That is a ton of time taken to help these new teachers get their feet under them and to make the best of their first or second year in the classroom. There were 29 workshops held, 293 one-on-one mentoring activities, and those are classified as classroom walkthroughs. So a mentee calls you to discuss an issue with classroom management, or visiting the teacher in the classroom, anything like that. So anything where you're working one-on-one, even if it's communicating with email, over the phone, a Zoom meeting, those are what fall under that one-on-one mentoring activities. It's the mentor and the mentee interacting together. So there's 293 instances recorded in the activity logs, and that's for quarter 2 only. That doesn't include what you guys did at first quarter. There were 72 planning meetings recorded, 84 research and development and preparation activities, 29 is the number of times that the mentor modules were accessed. And that's only the times that they were actually referenced in the activity logs. So there may have been more access that didn't get into the activity logs, and that's why it's not seen there. And we had 29 attendees at the fall mentor training. And lastly, 30 mentors have completed the mentor modules. And I want to thank those of you who are turning those in at the end of the year, because I had a couple come through, and I believe that everybody has completed them except for our mentors from our brand new district, and they have a little bit longer to get those completed. But I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for all this great work. This isn't possible without each and every one of you. And I wanted to say that next year, I am hoping to update the choices of activities on those logs to match what you see on the overhead here. Because what I do right now is I go through and I read each entry and I place it in one of these categories. So such as teacher observations, workshops, because I want to be able to quantify the work that everyone is doing out there so that we can show how much time and effort has gone into the project. Does anybody have any question on those, on that data? Okay, so this is for administrators. Hopefully all the administrators are attending either the morning webinar or right now. However, I understand that some of them may not, so this will also be sent out in an email. The sustainability reports are due in March. And basically the purpose of this report is to demonstrate how your district or school will be able to continue the program without state funding. So for example, if CTE TEACH grant didn't get approved next year, how would you continue, how would your school or district describe how they would continue the program without that? It wants to demonstrate how the funds have been used to support CTE teachers. So all those great activities that you guys are doing out there, those are the things that we want to see entered or written about in the sustainability reports. And lastly, it wants to demonstrate how you're developing a culture that supports teacher training and support. So those are the key elements of what this sustainability report is. I have number 2 on there says it has been uploaded to the Google Drive. So each of the participating districts or schools, if you go into your Google Drive or your Google folder, and you will see like Q1, Q2, Q3, there is a template below that says sustainability report. And that is the report that you have to build. It has all the information, ask the questions, and then you just write the narrative. You can complete that in Google Drive and send an email letting me know when it's completed, or you can download it, complete it in Microsoft Word, and email the file. Either way is fine. We just need to know when it is completed, so that way we can review it. Again, the sustainability report is specifically for the administrators. We only need 1 per participating district. And these reports are sent to the California Department of Education for review. So your attention to detail is greatly appreciated. The more information that we have in these, the better we can substantiate the need for the CTE TEACH grant and put that data into our request for the grant next year. So those are coming up. Again, that's due March 31st. Does anybody have any questions on the sustainability report? Okay, key takeaways was the administrator will write it. There's a template in the Google Drive. Notify us when it's done or email it to us. And attention to detail is greatly appreciated, because this really is where the tire meets the road. I got weird sayings today. It's getting late. Oh, that's rubber, where the rubber meets the road. I'm sorry. Anyway, so, you know, this is our 3rd webinar of the year. We have one more in, did we decide that was April? After this, we have one in April, and then we will have our final one in May, which is the state advisory webinar, and that's where everyone needs to attend, all the mentors and all the administrators. There is a statewide advisory survey that I have prepared, and there's things that this survey will assist with. It will help with the discussion at that advisory webinar, like what are the topics we're going to talk about or present during the webinar. This information will the information we gather will guide the direction of the CTE TEACH grant in the 2021 school year. It will provide insight into what is working with the grant and what needs to be improved. It also allows everyone to share their ideas. So this doesn't have to be done until the end of April. If you want to wait a little longer and see how things go and take all that, take your entire experience into consideration, that's fine. But just know they do need to be submitted by April 30th. And this is for all mentors and administrators. So this is for everybody to complete. You can either scan the QR code or you can use the bit.ly link. If you've been with CTE Teach before, I have changed the survey somewhat so that the data that's collected is more quantifiable. Because before it was a lot of open-ended questions. We still do have some open-ended questions, but you'll see that some of the things you have to give a rating to, like what did this didn't work at all, or did it really work? Did it improve teacher retention, or did it not? So you kind of give it an average. And then all the activities that take place and all the supports that are in place, those are there, and then you can rate those on how well they work for you or they didn't work for you. So that will give us a better idea and help us identify what we need to include in the grant next year. Does anybody have any questions on the statewide advisory survey? Okay. So with that said, we are at the end of our webinar. Like, what time is it? I talked 15 minutes faster than I did earlier today. I hope I didn't leave anything really important out. Oh, one thing that I didn't tell them earlier. Please make sure that all of the mentors are entering any activities from January 1st on in Q3. So when they, I know that I think some people are sharing the sheets or the workbooks instead of actually sharing the entire folder. So if a mentor has that file from Q2 and they don't have access to the entire Google Drive folder where it has the folders for Q1, Q2, Q3 in there, then they just assume that you're supposed to continue entering activities on those logs. So just make sure that anything from January 1st until the end of Q2 goes into Q2 log. So you may need to reshare that or find the original link to send the whole drive to all of the mentors. Again, follow us on CTE Teach on Twitter or on YouTube, and check out our podcasts. If there's anything that you would like for us to present on or talk about, or you need more information on, please feel free to give me a call, ask me questions, shoot me an email. But that's the end of our webinar, and I hope that everyone's third quarter is off to a great start, and I'm hoping that we can use all these hours and the money up and really make an impact on our new first and second year CTE teachers. Thank you, and have a nice afternoon.